The first time the house called my name, I thought it was my sister playing a joke. Emma's sense of humor often relied on me doing a double take, shouting, and chasing her off before realizing she'd snuck away, cackling behind a tree. But this time, it seemed genuine. The name had been spoken low, smooth, and with an unnerving familiarity that made my skin crawl. We'd been hiking for hours, the dense forest of the Adirondacks swallowing any distant sounds or signs of civilization. The trees seemed to close in around us as the afternoon drew on, their branches tangling into an eerie canopy that filtered sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. The silence had taken on a heaviness, a sense of anticipation that made me glance around every few minutes, expecting to catch a glimpse of movement. The map showed nothing, no cabin, no path, no sign of human existence. We'd been following the trail, marked only by faded paint on a few trees and what looked like a weathered stone cairn at the top of a rise. The cairn was long gone by the time we reached the top, but I remember thinking it was strange, a faint echo of purpose in a stretch of wilderness that seemed to exist only to confuse. It was then that I turned to Emma. She was walking ahead of me, the worn soles of her hiking boots kicking up tiny wisps of dirt, and swore I heard her call out my name, low and urgent. At first, I thought it was my own echo, the words rebounding off the trees, but then Emma spun around, a quizzical expression on her face. "What?" she mouthed, and I pointed at a break in the underbrush, a narrow opening that looked like a path, though I knew there shouldn't be any paths here. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "do you smell that?" A faint scent wafted through the air, rich and musty, like the inside of an old cabin. It was unmistakable, the smell of wood smoke and damp earth, carried on the faint breeze that rustled through the trees. We followed the scent, and I remember thinking we were trespassing on private property, that the cabin must belong to some remote hermit or squatter. But the trees grew shorter and more spindly here, and the underbrush gave way to a narrow clearing surrounded by a low railing of rough-hewn logs. The cabin stood at the center of the clearing, small and squat, with a rusting chimney that seemed out of proportion to its size. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, carrying the scent we'd picked up earlier. A porch creaked in the breeze, the wooden slats worn smooth by time and weather. I pushed through the railing, feeling a strange shiver run down my spine. The air inside was stale, but not musty. It had the scent of recent habitation, but nothing that seemed out of place. "Hello?" I called out, my voice carrying into the stillness. "Anyone here?" A faint creaking sound came from within, and I felt Emma's hand on my arm, her grip tight. "Maybe we should go back," she whispered, but her eyes darted towards the cabin as if drawn to it. I stepped inside, and the creaking sound grew louder, like a wooden floor settling underfoot. The interior was dimly lit, the windows cloudy with grime and a heavy, grayish dust that seemed to coat every surface. A faint scent of cooking oil and stale food clung to the air. A figure stood in the corner of the room, its back to us, its face obscured by a hood. I remember thinking it was a hermit or a trapper, someone who'd been living in isolation for years. "Hello?" I called out again, trying to keep my voice steady. The figure slowly turned towards us, its face pale and drawn, its eyes sunken. For a moment, it looked not right. Then, in a voice that was low and smooth and utterly unlike my own name was spoken, my name, clear as day, and with an unsettling intimacy that made my blood run cold.